each of the training days in BirthFit is set up with the template in mind of mind-body connection, strength, conditioning, mind-body reflection. And that's based on the polyvagal theory. And I'm going to give you a simple overview of the polyvagal theory because you could literally go down rabbit holes on YouTube and order a ton of Amazon books and just go down many rabbit holes. But the polyvagal theory is kind of the latest research on our nervous system by a guy named Stephen Porges. And side note, I think it's really phenomenal that Stephen Porges' wife, I don't know her name, but she studies the hormone oxytocin, and she's not as, she doesn't like talking in public as much as he does. So there's more videos on him on YouTube if you just search polyvagal theory. But the polyvagal theory is based on our nervous system and social engagement and safety. And so each of us perceive safety and threat kind of differently than the next person or the person beside you. And what he's found is that our nervous system has developed into like a hierarchy sort of thing. Whereas before it was just parasympathetic and sympathetic. Now we have this socialized branch. And so it goes socialization, sympathetics, parasympathetics. And I'll get to back to training. I'll circle all the way back in a second. But whenever we have socialized branch, sympathetics, parasympathetics. Ideally, we're living on this side of safety or health growth or restoration about 80% of the time. And this is where things like play, orgasms, babies, birth, all of those kind of like responses or activities or experiences happen when we perceive like we're safe. Our nervous system's like, oh, we're safe. Okay, I can experience healing or sleep. My body's totally healing when I sleep, or have the ability to orgasm, or give birth. So ideally, we're in this perceived safety experience 80% of the time. 20% of the time, we're in this perceived threat state. And this could be anything, if we're up here on the socialized branch, this could be anything from not informed consent. I'm totally blanking on a phrase, but like manipulation or slander or anything like that, and kind of having to do with words and communication. Then the next level would be sympathetic. So the fight or flight piece of this branch, or like if there's a perceived threat, if negotiations didn't work, then the next option would be either fight or flight. So our nervous system naturally goes to like the most current, and then the next most current, and then finally the third branch, which is parasympathetics. And so if there's a perceived threat, then the option would be to like shut down completely in parasympathetic shock for survival, or then it's like that's survival or not survive. So those are kind of our options, and our nervous system kind of works down in that stair step type of motion. And I say this because we have to figure out in our bodies how to feel safe and at home in our physical body. Because no matter where we give birth, whether it's at home, a birth center, or a hospital, we have to like use tools and navigate the situation, set up the situation, set up our team, etc., so that we feel safe and supported. The polyvagal theory is based on a cranial nerve called the vagus nerve, and they also call it the wandering nerve. It's the longest nerve, and it innervates, kind of everything. I don't know anything. There's things that it doesn't innervate, but like organs and diaphragm, and then some pieces of our facial muscles. So even doing things like tapping or tapping can help downregulate your nervous system. And downregulate meaning, okay, get out of this perceived threat and come over into this perceived safety, and maybe all the way down to the parasympathetic perceived safety box sort of thing. Um, and what he's discovered is that we have available within us three tools, and they're breath, sound, and movement. And these three things can influence our nervous system. And so if you think about it, if we're breathing, we can either breathe like and if you just like, you don't have to do that right now, but if you like think about doing that, you're like automatically getting worked up, your nervous system's getting like upregulated, and you're signaling to your brain, oh my goodness, like this is something is of a threat around here. Whereas opposed to like in our training, if we're like, okay, just 2 to 5 minutes of breathing, nasal breathing in through your nose, out through your nose. So you're starting to signal to your nervous system that you're safe. We're nasal breathing, we're not panting like a dog. We're actually using the holes that were designed to breathe and not the holes that are designed to eat. So we're letting our nervous system know we're safe, we can chill, everything's good. Even things like elongating your exhales will help to downregulate your nervous system. So you might notice or have, if you've experienced birth before or watched birth videos, you see women that will and they're like goes on and on. And it's so cool because they're like intuitively doing that. They're elongating their exhales, and sound. They threw sound in the mix. So breath, sound, and movement. So that like vibratory, kind of like humming. And you hear this with different religious groups like prayers, chanting. They're like even in yoga, like there's certain frequencies that are just proven to help downregulate the nervous system. And then the third thing would be movement. So movements like happy baby or child's pose, obviously bring your heart in a different position and allow you to kind of relax into your body and space a little bit more and just become a little bit more open. So going back to training, okay, we got mind body connection, strength conditioning, mind body reflection. The first bit is designed to have a conversation with your body, start to let your body know, okay, we're safe. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. Forget about work, everything else that's going on behind us. Pure chaos might be happening before you come into the gym or wherever you are. But the minute you start breathing, especially nasal breathing and connecting with your body, you're settling into the intention of training for that day. And so it starts with the socialized branch, and then we get into strength and conditioning, and that's more of sympathetics. And sure, we're going to challenge the system a little bit, so there might be a little perceived threat there, but you're in a safe space, and we're only there for a little bit. Like assault bike sprints, that might be terrible. I perceive them as a threat sometimes, but we're going to come back over into this safe space, either during rest, in EMOMs or intervals, or remind ourselves, okay, like we're good, we're nasal breathing. And then at the end of the day, the mind body reflection piece is designed to downregulate the system, come back to that parasympathetic ideal state of health, growth, or restoration. And so it's like a polyvagal theory sandwich. Um, I like to think of, like, if you are monitoring your training with like a Whoop or any kind of HRV, think of HRV as like a snapshot into your nervous system, and kind of looking at the range of motion of your nervous system. Can we adapt, or like, can we go into perceived threat and then come back? Can we explore this whole it, like nervous system corners, all the corners of the nervous system, and then come back down? Or another way to think of it is, what's the capability of our parasympathetics to bring us back to midline, or to bring us back into that down-regulated state after we've done a sprint, or experienced a contraction. Um, Contractions, are anywhere from 60 to 90 seconds, with a peak somewhere around 10 to 15 seconds. So they're intense and they're like a mountain, but then you have rest in between. So ideally we're going back to like nasal breathing or even long exhales, but ideally within that rest, we've trained our body. And so we're now starting to think of, how can I down regulate? Focus on the task at hand. How can I down regulate? Focus on the task at hand. How can I down regulate? So it's a little bit repetitious, like with contractions and in labor, but that's kind of it. The conditioning is designed to kind of start to imitate that. So that's the polyvagal theory sandwich.